So how are you? A Nigerian was killed in Italy by an Italian, and this in the eyes of everyone. While people were eating, he was killed right next door, and nobody lifted a finger to help him. Instead of helping him, they preferred to take out their phones to film the scene. ALIKA Ogakukwu, a young Nigerian who was fighting as a street vendor. He was selling handkerchiefs. So here is a young Italian couple walking in the street, and ALIKA Ogakukwu decides to kindly offer them the handkerchiefs he was selling. You know, these street vendors are often insistent, even when you tell them no, they always insist in order to make you change your mind. According to what people say, he held the hand of the man's wife in order to convince her to buy. As soon as he touched the woman's hand, the man with him jumped on him and started to beat him up. The young Nigerian fought for his life, but unfortunately for him, his Italian opponent knew how to fight. So he pinned the Nigerian to the ground, started to beat him up, strangled him, and that's how the Nigerian finally died. And while this was happening, there were people around. But no one intervened to separate the two men. They preferred to take out their phones to film the scene. And in Europe, restaurants are often next to the road where pedestrians walk just to tell you how crowded it was, but no one did anything. Can you imagine that? People were filming, while the young Nigerian was being killed. No one stood up, not even one person. We can't put the images of this scene here because the scene is quite shocking. So a 32-year-old attacks a young Nigerian salesman in the middle of the day and in the middle of the street. And no one lifted a finger to stop this barbarism, this savagery. So, here is a young African who was killed because he wanted to sell an item to a couple. In general, among Africans, touching someone is never in a negative context. In most cases, it is a way to sympathize. This young Nigerian had no bad intentions, he just wanted to sell his item using African manners. So he touched the hand of the man's wife to encourage her to buy, and the man in return misinterpreted the gesture. Initial reports say that the attack was not racially motivated. But I'd like you to imagine the scene differently. How do you think people would have reacted if it had been an Italian who was attacked? Would people have just filmed it? The Italian authorities say that the investigations are still going on, but what investigations? What investigations are needed to convict a murderer? Especially when we know that there is evidence. People have filmed, the videos are available. It should be mentioned here that Europeans don't like Africans who are illegal, they are called undocumented. But ALIKA Ogakukwu was legal, he had all his papers and had been living in Italy for more than 6 years. In fact, he was a disabled man who had been hit by a car some time before and now needed crutches to get around. The Italian who killed him used those crutches. A young man of 32 jumps on a disabled salesman, beats him with his fists at first, and then uses the man's crutch to strangle him, and nobody intervenes, in broad daylight, in the middle of the street. This is the cruel world we live in. I wonder if it would have happened the same way if it was a European who was selling instead of the African. Do you think he would have been beaten to death? Or do you think people would have just filmed it? We have to tell each other the truth. Everywhere in the world, we are not welcome. In India they kill us, in Lebanon they throw us over buildings, in the USA it's the same thing. So I wonder where they love us. Even in Morocco, an African country, we are mistreated. And yet in our country, it's the opposite. When a foreigner comes to our country, he is welcomed, he benefits from African hospitality and kindness. It's very sad to see this reality. ALIKA Agakukwu, 39 years old, killed for trying to sell an article, and leaving behind a weeping wife. She is asking for justice for her husband, and we hope that this will be the case. And in defense of the Italian, his lawyer mentioned psychiatric disorders. It's sad. You know, during colonization we were divided. We were divided by delimiting the territories into countries. Today we are told of Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, Mali, Chad, Congo, and so on. By dividing us in this way, they have taken away the most precious thing we had, union. And today we continue to maintain this idea. The simple fact of considering ourselves Senegalese, Cameroonian, Congolese, Nigerian, Congolese, Nigerian, Kenyan, the simple fact of considering ourselves foreigners among ourselves is a way of perpetuating the colonial work. In reality, we are all Africans and that's all. We have only one country, it's Africa. When we understand this, many things will change, and we will be respected. It doesn't matter what nationality you are now, if you are black, you reflect Africa. And as long as Africa is not strong, powerful, and united, we will continue to be treated with contempt and indifference all over the world. Whether you are rich or poor, as long as you are black, you will be treated like other black people. The proof is that we have seen soccer players who have been victims of racism in the middle of a soccer game, in front of thousands of fans. This video is already coming to an end. Thank you for watching it, and I hope you enjoyed it. You will be informed when we will post a new video.